Funny faces, Aaron Craig. Funny faces, Aaron Craig.
Hi, I'm Aaron Craig. I'm an Australian pop artist based here on the Sunshine Coast, and we are sitting in SUPERWOW Gallery, which is a new contemporary art gallery based here in Moffat Beach. This is my solo show that opens this weekend called Funny Faces. For the show, I wanted to do something that was a bit more immediate and like a way looser style than what I'd usually do. So I wanted to experiment with spray paint, airbrush and material specifically. So yeah, I felt like I could make works that were faster to make than sort of like the grueling, super considered line work and flat colors that I guess my work's generally known for. So this is sort of like the outcome of that experimentation process. So I use elements from, Japanese cartoons, along with elements from sort of Western comic books. So it's kind of an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different styles, which I think gives it sort of a unique flavor. But even in that as well, like some of the works are sort of based off my children's drawings that they do, that I've then given sort of my own, I guess, pop mash twist to. This show incorporates three-dimensional elements for the first time, I think, in my work. So material specifically, which you can see in some of the bigger pieces and also in a few of the smaller ones. So with this, I kind of wanted to just trial new things that I hadn't seen done elsewhere before. And that sort of led me down the path of the faux fur materials being added. So I started out with the small, fake rabbit tail pom-poms, which are on some of the works. And then I wanted to go larger scale than that. So that's where the fur came into it. So I sort of imagined characters from like the Muppets and how they would then translate if they were sort of put into a flatter like 2D setting, like how would say Oscar the Grouch, for example, look like if he were a canvas painting as opposed to a physical puppet in a trash can. So it was kind of sort of about breaking down a 3D character into a 2D character, but at the same time building out a 2D canvas into a 3D character. So it's a mix between a puppet and a painting. I think my pop mash characters are generally based off my own interests or my kids' interests. So a lot of them sort of come from traveling. So we have spent a little bit of time in Japan over the last few years. So a lot of them have sort of a Japanese character flavor to them, mainly because I feel like they have a big range in terms of how their characters look outside of, say, Disney or, Warner Brothers or whatever, that it kind of, you can tell that they are from that product base. So yeah, I feel like adding the different elements into them from different cultures kind of make them a little bit more unique. But I mean, at the end of the day, like they don't really need to say much about, society or whatever. They're more to make people happy. Like I look at them and they remind me of travel and cartoons that I enjoy and other artists that I like and just simple design. So I like to sort of see how they would be if they existed in their own weird world. The main painting in the show would be Ball for a Head, which is the largest painting I've actually ever painted. It's mainly Japanese characters. So, it's got a version of Doraemon. It's got a bit of Astro Boy. It's got a crying panda, which is actually ripped from a train. Don't get your fingers caught in a closing train door in Tokyo. Toad from Mario. It's got a bit of Casper, the friendly ghost, in there, and Pan Man. So it's kind of like a melting pot of a whole bunch of different stuff, but they're mainly Japanese characters, and it's called Ball for a Head because they've literally all got circles for heads. It's pretty self-explanatory. I get the smaller works are kind of a bit from everywhere. So, there's a bit of Casper, there's a bit of, again, Pan Man in there and the Pan Man characters. a bit taken from all over the place, to be honest. A bit of Winnie the Pooh, stuff inspired by like Frog Suit Mario, and then a few of them are actually based on my kids' drawings. And then have, I think the one at the top there has Tom from Tom and Jerry's eyes in it, Mickey Mouse as a vampire, and then there's the ones of my own character, which is G Grub. So that's a character that I was drawing back when I was a kid, and I wanted to be an animator. Which is silly. So I sent a whole bunch of drawings off to Yoram Gross in Sydney, who did like Blinky Bill and like Dot and the Kangaroo and all that. And in the drawings was this character called Georgie Grub, so G Grub. And then over the years since then, I think I got invited to do a show in LA that was specifically about old-timey cartoon characters. So I kind of reworked him for that. So titling the artworks is actually like one of my favourite parts of it. Most of the titles actually come from the titles of cartoon episodes. So like if I were painting something specifically that was, say, Casper the Ghost, I would go back to like Casper the Ghost episodes and go through the episode list and find an episode that seemed fitting of the artwork. Sometimes I'll change a word or two in there, or maybe add something, or I'll mix a couple of titles together. So, or just something else like from video games, like Frog Suit on the wall over there is titled after Frog Suit Mario, because it's kind of what it reminds me of. There's one titled Ponyo, which wasn't even set out to be like a goldfish, but it reminds me of a sort of sad goldfish. So it's off the Studio Ghibli Ponyo movie. So they all sort of come from a place of nostalgia. I actually really like the Sesame Street flavoured pieces. I'm not a huge Sesame Street fan. I mean, I grew up watching it, obviously, but I feel like the Blurt and Goonie combo down the end, I think that they came out really well. Like, I think they are very obviously those characters without being those characters. I think sort of just the expressions and everything sort of captured perfectly, like the constant anxiety that Bert has and the sort of stupidity, happy-go-lucky sort of personality that Ernie has. I think it captured pretty well. Plus, I think they were the first two that I used the fake fur on for their hair at the top. So they kind of paved the way for some of the bigger furry works. And then I guess after that, the Trash Monster painting, the Oscar the Grouch inspired one, which was actually the last painting I did for this show. So I think it was like the first two paintings and the last one probably, I would say they're pretty important in terms of the overall theme and feel. In terms of material, I did use spray paint, I guess, a fair amount in this show. And I don't have a background in using spray cans at all. I have no idea how to use them. But just I guess the aesthetic that I was going for this show allowed for me to just mess about with it. I bought a bunch of different caps and stuff, and I had no idea what they did and which ones did what. So I was I was experimenting with them and being like, oh, I totally wrecked that canvas. But then I would just find a way to make it work, which I think is nice, I would never choose to add some of these colors together in a design, but I did it, and then I feel like it works in a different way of something that I've painted previously.
Funny faces, Aaron Craig, Aaron Craig. Funny faces, Aaron Craig.